Yes, the theme of this discussion today is rule of law, and I think it was very, very good that we started with Professor Lacey, because what you said about procedure and substance, I think, can be used as a basis for addressing all the other issues that have been discussed. You mentioned the fact that procedure is particularly important in times of transition, and this is so because it's through procedure that you can see whether justice has been done, seen to be done. So this is very important, and substance is also important because, of course, there are laws in Burma which are obsolete, which are not suited to the times, and these have to be addressed. Now, transition, you were talking about transition, and that goes with procedure. What kind of procedures are we going to use? You mentioned the fact that time will not heal, that Archbishop Desmond Tutu said, the time will not heal. There has to be acknowledgement. And how is this acknowledgement going to be made? That is a procedural matter. What sort of procedures are we going to follow? Are we going to go for a commission of inquiry of the kind perhaps that will be started by an external body, such as the United Nations Commission for Human Rights, or is it something that is going to be internal? These also are procedural matters. How are we going to handle these issues? Now, even the discussion of statelessness in Burma, we can base it on rule of law. There are two aspects to this. First, the laws of citizenship. Then that substance. What are the laws of citizenship in Burma like? Are these just? Are these in line with internationally acceptable standards? So that is one issue. And the other is procedural. How do the immigration authorities work? How do the police work? How do the courts work? These two together are essential if we are to find out exactly why stateless persons are stateless and whether there is not something that can be done to assure their position within the rule of law. So the reason why I've emphasized rule of law so much in my political work is because this is what we all need if we are to really proceed towards democracy. Unless people see that justice is being done, unless justice is done and seen to be done, we cannot believe in genuine reform. We have to know that reform is based on rule of law. Reform should be applied equally. Reform should not be used to protect a certain group or to promote another group. This is why, even with the Myitsone Dam, I think it's a little different from rule of law. It's more good governance, but I think you have to link good governance to rule of law. You can't divorce one from the other. With the Myitsone Dam project, we don't know exactly what's in these contracts that have been drawn up between the Burmese government and Chinese business. And this is where the problems begin. The people only knew after the work had started that they didn't like what was going on. But the fact that this project has been suspended for 5 years certainly does not bring an end to the problem at all. What happens at the end of 5 years? What is in those contracts? I don't know, and I think the great majority of people in Burma do not know. And I think that there, although in a way you could say that this is to do with good governance, that is to say transparency and accountability, you could say that it has something to do with rule of law as well. How, under the law, a government should proceed with regard to contracts with foreign enterprises. And you talked about investment. I've spoken recently about democracy-friendly, human rights-friendly investment. I think investors must take responsibility for the results of the business that they do inside our country. It's not just environmental consciousness, but also a consciousness of long-term results, of possible long-term results. For example, we want to encourage investment that will create jobs, because unemployment is a big problem in our country. And we also want to promote the kind of investment which will bring in vocational training, train the people to take up the jobs that will be created. Because of our extremely poor education system, our young people are not trained to find employment. There's no employment to begin with, but even if jobs are created, the great majority of our young people just can't go into them straight away. They have to be trained to take up these jobs. And the kind of scrutiny that is needed with regard to foreign investment can also be linked to rule of law. In fact, it is linked to rule of law. We cannot escape from rule of law. This was the main plank of our election manifesto, our by-election manifesto: rule of law, end to ethnic conflict, and amendments to the Constitution. The reason why we put rule of law first is because we do not think that we can achieve the other two without the foundation of rule of law. Because ethnic conflict has a lot to do with lack of justice, and of course justice is linked to rule of law. And amendments to the Constitution. If we are to meet the aspirations of the ethnic nationalities, this Constitution will have to be amended to harmonize with those aspirations. This present Constitution does not harmonize with our aspirations. That is to say, we who are not, we are ethnic Burmese, but who wish for a democratic constitution, nor does it harmonize with the aspirations of the other ethnic nationalities who are minority in the sense that there are fewer of each of the other nationalities than are of the Burmese ethnic nationality. Unless we amend the Constitution to harmonize with the aspirations of all of the people in our country, we will never be able to bring about the kind of unity and peace that we all desire. So it all comes down to rule of law. Amendments to the Constitution, of course, is very much to do with law. It's to do with substance as well as procedure, because amendment to the Constitution is to do with procedure. We have a very rigid Constitution, whereby to make any amendments, more than 75% of the members of the National Assembly must agree to these amendments. Now, since 25% are military nominees, that means that all the civilian members of the National Assembly must agree, plus at least one military officer. But don't forget that the great majority of the civilian members of Parliament are from the USDP party, which is the party created by the previous military regime. So you can imagine how difficult it is going to be to have the Constitution amended. Perhaps then you might want to ask me, then do we think it can be amended? Yes, we think so, because we think that it is possible to work together with the military to make them understand why we think that this Constitution will not move us in a positive direction. By us, I don't mean the National League for Democracy, I mean the whole country. So that the reason why I ask that rule of law be discussed today is for all these other reasons, that the progress that we hope to make with regard to democratization and reform depends so much on an understanding of the understanding and acceptance of the importance of rule of law.
Well, thank you very much, and that's a good thing.